Okay, welcome. I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, September 18th, 2024 regular meeting of the Royal Oak Downtown Development Authority. At this time, we'll have public comment. Anybody who wishes to address the board. I want to remind you we do have a timer up here, so please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And who would like to go first? Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mike. Bill Harrison, property owner downtown and also a 83-year resident of Royal Oak. I had these letters passed out to you, and it's the letter that was written by the then city manager when you selected the MPS system. And the reason I'm pointing it out is that the original recommendation from the parking systems manager, the then Keith Fry, was the Civic smart meters that are used in Birmingham. And I would encourage you, let me back up, you are the parking committee. So I hope that you will keep your finger in the mix when they're selecting the next parking system, and do your diligence as go to the city that has the system and find out how it's working. I talked to the guy that runs the Birmingham system, and they've had no problems at all. At one time, they tried integrating cameras, and they said there was just too much maintenance involved, and they dropped that. So, but let me back up and thank you for the work that you did and bringing the lawsuit. I mean, it's not a perfect solution. We've got another year of this mess, but it's better than we've been able to attain over the last 4 years. So thank you for that. I want to point out that the Civic Smart meters, they emulate the old style meter heads. The system provides the automated functions alleged by MPS, except violations are reported to the police and ticketing is done by the police. The system is working. It can even find a vacant parking space near to your destination. So it has a lot of good features, and I hope you will at least consider that system. And again, whatever system, talk to the guy that has one and see if he would buy it again. So, thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Mr. Holbrook.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Hobrecht, and I'm also a property owner, 408 South Washington. And I don't know, maybe it was something I said in the course of the last 20 years, but we're now maybe thinking about paving our alley behind our building. And obviously, we are here to support. We have an overhead door already attached and created in our building. It'll accept a dumpster. Our dumpster is going to come off the alley. There's a grease receptacle. That's going to be leaving here shortly. We're just trying to negotiate getting that thing off. Everybody else needs to leave too. So please talk to my good neighbors at the 5th. They have 3 dumpsters right behind our building. So once they leave, then we could start thinking about how we're going to leave. There's going to be some discussion about these recycling receptacles. We need to figure out where to put those. Maybe we can do something with some landscaping or doing something. Actually, people from the 5th and us, they're very highly used. We have 4 receptacles. So maybe we can work into some kind of an agreement so they can stay on the alley. Maybe we can build a small enclosure and we can keep them. We don't have the room for them inside of our building. It's going to be tight enough to get the dumpster. And we're going to make this thing happen. So please get some support on that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board today? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Back to the regular agenda, approval of the minutes, August 21st, 2024. Has everybody had a chance to review these?
Yeah. Motion.
Motion by Director Keith.
Support.
Second by Director Von Staden. Questions, comments, or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. Item number 4, expense items, monthly expenses. There we go. Did anybody have any questions for staff or? I'm not seeing any. I do, Tim, I have 2 questions if I could, please. Could you explain transfer of fund city services Taco Fest?
Certainly. The agreement that you had with the promoter of Taco Fest called for a sponsorship dollar amount, and then it also called for an allocation that would cover city services related to Taco Fest. We don't send those funds to the promoter. We simply transfer those dollars to the city to cover police, fire, DPS services related to that event. And that's included in your sponsorship agreement with the promoter.
Okay. And my second question is, just please refresh my memory. On Pride Royal Oak, did we have a 45-day review stipulation with them?
I believe you have one with everyone. As soon as they're finished, I'm sure we can get them in front of you.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I'll make a motion.
No motion would be needed on this item. Okay. Item number 5, business, regular business. Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce 45-day review for the summer concert series. Mr. Twing?
Shelley Kemp is here from the chamber to give you an overview. You should have a copy of the materials in the packet, and I've got it displayed on the cameras.
Ms. Kemp?
Hi, everybody. 32-day wrap-up. Thank you very much. So summer concert series ended. This was the 3rd year that we took it over from when the city and Jason Gittinger were doing it. And Centennial Commons continues to be an amazing location for us. We appreciate it. I hope we leave it better than when we found it every time we use it. But yeah, summer concert series, 6 weeks, never rained out. Is a miracle. It actually never even close to rained. And we had bands, two bands a night for 6 weeks, and then also the students at Detroit School of Rock and Pop on top of a kids area, and free ice cream for 12 and under, and the climbing wall, and all the fun stuff. And thank you for the splash pad, by the way. I'm sorry, water feature. It's I don't know if any of you were able to make it this year, but same as last year. It is such a great atmosphere, and people are so happy to be there. And I can't tell you again how many bikes and strollers were all corralled in front of the library, and just people sitting everywhere. If you didn't make it, please come next year for one of the 6 weeks. It's really a great event. So thank you for supporting it.
Any questions? Mr. DeBach?
Thank you. Not a question, but I totally agree. Most of the feedback I've heard is from Royal Oak families who attended the event, loved it. When I went, it was amazing. And from visitors, nothing but positive feedback. So
Yay.
you're doing an amazing job with it,
Thank
and I
you.
think it's a real benefit to our city and to our downtown.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for such an awesome production.
Yeah, I think it's what you guys, I'm pretty sure it's what you guys are hoping for and why you're supporting it, so appreciate it all.
Anybody else? I echo Director Dubuc's comments. I've had nothing but positive feedback from this event, from multitude of people. If you haven't been there, everybody here and everybody out there and at home, you need to come to one of these evenings. It is a great event. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, no problem, you're welcome. I hope the businesses at least around are experiencing some little bump.
Yeah, just-
Go ahead.
I'll just say that this is a perfect example of the type of activity that we need to continue to bring Royal Oak residents and others downtown. This is what our community is all about, and yeah, think of more things like this to do, and we're all in.
Not in the summer, could we can we spread it out a little? May to August is a lot for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. No action is needed on this?
No.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Have a great
Appreciate
night.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item is a facade sign grant, 108 West 2nd Street, Johnny Mustard's.
Yes, this application was reviewed by the Infrastructure Committee at its September 9th meeting. The committee is recommending approval of the application. As you look through the packet, it is for facade, window, door improvements, as well as an awning and sign improvements on the address you just referenced for the new business. The total application is for some $18,500 pursuant to the facade grant, sign grant program. It's limited to 50% of that amount, so you'll see the resolution recommended by the committee is for $9,200 or $9,250, or 50% of the actual cost, which is ever less. You will recall that when the project's done, they're required to submit for reimbursement with the actual invoices and the costs that go along with it. The materials are all in the packet if you've had a chance to look through them. If you've got any questions of myself or maybe committee members, be happy to try and address them.
Any questions from the board? Yes.
I just have a quick question. I assume they're going to paint the mustard colored door in the same color, mustard color yellow, but make sure it's a clean paint job. I'm sure that's the case, but.
Excuse me, I can answer that. I'm Jeff Bubeck. I'm actually opening the business.
Great.
So the door's being replaced. It's part of the grant.
Is it going to be yellow?
Part of the
Mustard yellow? I love it.
What a coincidence, right? No,
Yeah.
actually, it's got to go. I don't think anything's been done in that building 50 plus years, but we've gutted it. So new glass door, and yeah. No yellow door. It's yours though, once we pull it out.
No, thanks.
No?
It's not maize colored enough for me, so.
Okay, any
Thank you.
questions for staff or the applicant who is there? Mr. DeBout.
For the applicant, actually, it's great to see another sandwich shop coming into this space.
Yeah, you know, I actually own UHF Records on Washington.
Oh, great.
And we're trying to fill a gap that the general store left. Our employees used to love going down there and grab and go. So we're kind of trying to, be a lunchtime really only at first to cater more to employees and, workers and the couple salon schools and baker. That's the intent. Whether or not we'll go beyond into dinner time hours, we'll see. But right now, it's just going to be 5 days a week, and lunchtime only.
That's great. Well, I'm glad you're feeling bullish about lunchtime traffic. Are you going to be doing DoorDash,
Oh, yeah.
Grubhub? Because
Initially, yes. How
Okay.
long will last, remains to be seen.
all right.
I've heard quite a few horror stories about them, so.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the nuts and bolts of them, but I do know when I got to get my kids dinner in a pinch, I really love to support a Royal Oak business
Right.
through those services.
I think they usually add about 30% on to the actual cost.
Yeah.
And again, our intent being lunchtime, we're really trying hard to keep our prices low.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Director Dunstan. Motion by Director Dunstan,
Support.
supported by Director Dubois. Anything else? Nothing? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item C, Star Dream repairs. Mr. Twain.
The board may recall that every year except the year when the Civic Center project was being done, the DDA funds the actual just cleaning of the Star Dream sculpture fountain over in between the 11 Mile Deck and Centennial Commons. So you have provided funding for that on pretty much an annual basis for years, except, as I said, when Centennial Commons was being built and caused a lot of dust that was paid for out of the project. What's occurring now is DPS has provided a proposal from a company. The liner, the substrate, and some of the bottom parts of the fountain need replacing. The cost for removing and reinstalling all of that is estimated at not to exceed $20,000 as part of that proposal. In addition, they're proposing to grind basically a 1/4 inch round radius on the edge of the granite that's around the fountain surface, the black part, to repair it from all the skateboards that have hit it over the years, and grind it back at a cost not to exceed $3,000. The last item is they would like to install stainless steel skateboard stoppers at the expansion joint, so it would stop that from occurring in the future, or at least hamper it very much, at a cost not to exceed $1,500. The Infrastructure Committee did review the proposal and is recommending approval at an allocation of not to exceed $25,000, and the resolution is included in the cover memo. The proposal is attached from the company that outlines more of the details.
Any questions for Mr. Twain? Yes, Mr. Wallenberg.
I'll just make a motion to approve as outlined, not to exceed 25,000.
I have a motion by Director Wallenweber. Support the motion. Supported by Director Van Ness. Any discussion?
I just had one question. The $10,000 per year for, the maintenance and stuff, do we have that allocated? I don't remember seeing that in our budget. I just want to make sure. Do we have that? The $10,000 that were for allocating for the cleaning and different things annually, that's annually, right?
That's annually. You've already done that in your fiscal year budget.
That's, okay, we do have that included?
Yes.
Just want to double check that. Thanks.
Anything else? Seeing nothing, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. Item number 8, Draft Master Plan, Downtown Core Activity Center. Mr. Twain.
As you may recall, the city and the Planning Commission are going through a complete rewrite of the city's master plan. One section of that master plan is referenced as the Downtown Core Activity Center. It includes some activities, objectives, and design items. That draft portion was brought to the board at your July 24th meeting. It was referred to the two committees. The committees have reviewed it and have made some comments in terms of what they would like to see sent back to the Planning Commission in terms of comments on that section of the master plan, and those related to the recommendation regarding branding of areas in the downtown, the future development of city parking lots, development improvements to the train station or transit station, additional parking deck in the south end should be studied and done with the development. More study was needed on a recommendation regarding Main Street median. And indication was it did not need another park or public plaza at the 6th Street lot, given that the 5th Street improvements are ongoing and proposed. One other item I would like to point out and make sure that the board and is comfortable with. On the land use map, you will see at the south end, I'm kind of circling it, of what is currently the CBD of the Central Business District along Lincoln. The proposal from the consultant is to relabel that as a mixed-use corridor versus part of the Central Business District. Planning staff has pointed it out, and at the last two meetings of the Planning Commission, it was brought up last night. And so that may be changing to go back to be part of the downtown core rather than labeling it as a mixed-use corridor. So that may go. That didn't come from the committee. It wasn't brought up by the committee, but it's something that we pointed out. And I just raise here so it's in your purview. If you want to send a formal action from the board to the DDA, there is a suggested resolution including those items that were compiled by the Infrastructure Committee and the Business or the Marketing Committee. That's all I have. If committee members or others have comments.
I have something, and I thought that I had brought this up, but there is a lack of green space on the south side of downtown, south side of the DDA district. We won't count Eagle Plaza as a green space, but I think there's an opportunity on 7th Street between Lafayette and Washington, and that would be the west half, no, I'm sorry, the east half of 7th Street to create a green space. And so it would be east of the alley to allow access to the businesses. I just think it's something that should be looked at. That street is not, it's not a busy street. It's only used for the very local businesses, and it would still have a use. But I would like to suggest that and add that if we could I'll make the resolution for this, and I'd like to add that to it, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah. You want to add it to the proposal that we're sending to the Planning Commission?
Add it to that.
Okay.
And I want to just say, I don't necessarily agree with everything in this, but this is just recommendations anyhow.
Right. Okay, so I have a motion by Director Dunstan to add
looking at a green space somewhere on the south end of downtown.
Okay.
And I'm suggesting that area.
motion by Director Dunstan. Let me see if I have a second before we get into any discussion.
I'll support Director Dunstan's
Okay.
motion with the amendment.
I have a second by Director Van Ness. Now, discussion. Mr. DeBuck.
No, so I appreciate the comment. I'm just wondering if it might, instead of being an additional item, maybe we just recommend the amendment of section 5.2.1.6 about studying a public plaza, and it says specifically on a specific area of 6th Street, but maybe we should just expand that to include or other possible areas
That would be
on the
good.
south side of downtown
I'm good with
to
that.
create a public green space
Right, I'm good with
instead of just focusing on this one area.
Right. Okay.
That also makes sense to me because I thought the proposal for green space at the south end was already in the,
But it's dictating this one area.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yeah, well, in the proposal, it's saying the triangle lot there and Sixth. And I would like,
Right, and you just want to make it the south end.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm good with that.
we're going to amend your motion
I'm good with that.
So you want me to move that as an amendment?
to,
I'll move to amend the motion that we recommend that this item just be expanded to say exploring a public green space on the south side of downtown, of which this one they're recommending is a space in consideration, but also what you're saying.
I'm good
Is
with
that,
that.
is that clear enough?
Yeah, I get what you're
Clear as
saying.
mud.
okay.
I understood it.
So I have a motion by Director Dubuck.
To amend my motion,
To amend the amendment.
to amend the amendment. Yes, that's right. And I don't know, I guess I approve the
If we
amendment.
approve it, that'll make your
Then you've got to
motion.
say okay, right?
And I will support the amendment to the amendment.
Okay. So I have a second motion by Director Dubuck, seconded by Director Van Ness.
Bless you.
Okay, and if this is approved, then your motion is off the table.
Oh, no, it's an
It's
amendment.
amended.
It's amended.
Okay,
And then we would have to vote on his motion with the
motion,
amendment.
okay. Okay, discussion. Mr. Yasmin.
My reaction to that bullet point is that we're spending a significant amount of money on Fifth Street, so I don't know that it would make sense to do something additional on Sixth Street, or that triangle parking lot. I think Seventh Street probably makes a lot more sense, but I have no problem studying all of it. That's fine. What I would point out is that I think we should make it clear, at least in my opinion, we should make it clear, and it's bullet points under future development of city parking lots, probably bullet point 1 and 5. It says any development should be beneficial to city downtown versus developer. I'm not sure what that means. The definition of beneficial could be wide ranging. I would be more comfortable making it saying specifically that the goal of any development in our lots or structures should be to increase daytime and nighttime traffic, foot traffic, any kind of traffic, I guess, in the downtown. I would like to drill down on the definition of beneficial, because to me that's what's beneficial, is increasing traffic in the daytime and the nighttime for the downtown. And with regard to the fifth bullet point, contribute and be a catalyst, I think that might be something I said in the past, and a catalyst to further development. Employers, bringing people that work and then could potentially live, and whatever the saying is, live, work, play, that type of catalyst. Let's try to make sure any development of those downtown areas has a goal of increasing that kind of participation in the city, work, live, play. So I would like to just be more specific as to what's beneficial. And I'm reticent to ask Director Dunstan to amend his motion again, because that seemed pretty complicated, but I can make my own motion, or whatever you would like to do.
Okay. Let's see what discussion we have here, and then we'll save that option. Mr. DeBuck.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Which bullet here in the plan are we talking about? I'm trying to.
It's not on the plan, it's in the motion.
It's
in
in.
the,
So it's in our
He's
bullets
yes, he's
from our
referring to that, be it
conversation
resolved.
at the last meeting.
Correct.
So the last bullet, right there.
Dune.
So under future developments of the city
Why
parking
am I
lots.
not-
the last-
there we go.
There you go.
Oh, should be beneficial to city downtown versus a developer. Oh, okay. So my concern, I agree with you. My concern with that language is that's a weird way to enter a negotiation, is we're going to get more out of this than you. So mutually beneficial while achieving stated city and DDA objectives would be my preferred language. I don't know who's gonna come on to do a deal with us. And we're saying we're starting from a point where we're going to get more than you.
There may be some altruistic developers out there. Who knows?
To my knowledge, they're not nonprofits.
So I'd be good with basically adding the word mutually.
Mutually beneficial
There you go.
while achieving clearly stated city and DDA objectives.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
which
Yeah.
I think we've been pretty clear about. Foot traffic,
Yeah.
daytime workers, third spaces. Yeah.
Tim just threw that piece of paper out and he started a new piece of paper.
Oh, I've got video, I go back.
Back to the video.
I'll track it down. You just want to make a motion, or do you want to vote on the First Amendment and then amend the, do you want to vote on Director DeBuck's amendment first?
Personally, I don't want anything to do with that first
All right. So
discussion.
what's on the table right now is the amendment is the motion as originally amended. I'll move to amend it again to make that one change that I just articulated. Mutually beneficial while achieving stated city and DDA goals.
And I would like to state actually a few of the things that I mentioned.
Yeah. Downtown foot traffic.
Because I don't
daytime
want,
workers.
beneficial
And
again
brand.
is a
The
little
live, work, play.
ambiguous.
Live, work, play. Can we also correct the typo? There's a typo. Catalyst, not catalysis.
Catalyst would be right.
Since we're at it, might
Yes.
as well fix the
All
typos.
those are part of my motion. And I think Mr. Twing has it.
No, that's fine with me. I'll just go back and list what you articulated and it's part of his emotion, so I'm good with it. Was there a support to the amendment?
There is.
There
Dennis.
was by
Mike.
Mr. Van Ness.
And Tim, that encompasses what I said?
Yes.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
It will.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes.
Now we have to
Anything
vote.
else regarding the draft master plan?
We have to vote on the amended motion now.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the table. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes.
And we did it.
Anything else regarding this?
We went through the back door in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else regarding this item? Okay. I think that, these are all gonna get sent to the planning commission and the company that's actually doing the drafting, so I think we're gonna hear more about this as we get closer to.
That's correct. Procedurally, the planning commission had 2 meetings, one Monday night, one last night, to go over the draft plan. The consultant was directed to make some changes. He indicated those would be coming back maybe in about 2 months. The planning commission will get those. If they're comfortable with those revisions, they'll forward the draft plan to the city commission for its distribution. And then there's a 63-day period for review and input, and then there's a public hearing that would occur. So there's lots of opportunity for the board to see the revisions that are actually dealt with in the coming months.
Very good. Okay. I will move on to the next item, downtown alleys. First part, 3rd to 4th alley. Mr. Dunstan.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up, and I'm really talking about the alley running from 11 Mile all the way to 5th Street. And it looks really bad right now, and what I'm looking for is maybe staff or someone to make a suggestion. There's an image that I sent. Half the time there's a dumpster that's not put away, and half the time there isn't. There's chairs in the alley with people sitting in them, motorcycles parked there the other day, and there's a plethora of recycling bins. Now, if you look at the, not that I go through and look at all the recycling bins, but like half have recycling and half have garbage in them. So I don't know if it makes more sense to do a more, in the center of each block, take a couple parking spots. I know that would involve some negotiation with MPS, but, and put like a larger recycling bin and get rid of all those bins. Because the whole point of that alley, and this was my first time around in the DDA, was to create something that not only could service the businesses as it does, but also could be used for pedestrians. We're talking about putting murals up, but it's not very inviting. And if someone's walking down the street, there's no, you look at that and it's eye pollution, and there's no way in the world you really want to go walking down one of these alleys. I walked by would be the north end of the alley between 4th and 5th today, and it was a mess. I mean, just horrible. And enough to the point where you couldn't even get a vehicle through there. So I'm thinking maybe one path might be to maybe have Daniel or someone draft something explaining to all the businesses along these alleys what we did, how much we spent, why we did it, and then explain to them what their obligations are as far as keeping the alley right, and then moving forward from there if we need to with code enforcement, and also offering them a way to solve all this. You know, I mean, I don't think you need to have 40 recycling bins in one alley, you know, on one block. There's got to be a better way to do this. It's just ugly as can be. And I think, Mike, you made the suggestion too that it might be a good idea to look, we've lit up the alley by Henry Ford. It might make sense to do that all the way down, to make it more inviting. And maybe part of it's our fault. We haven't like touched it up and made it look more friendly. But I think the combination of the pollution of bins, so many bins, and then just people not keeping their dumpsters where they're supposed to keep them, or throwing things in the alley, or having furniture sitting in the alley for breaks and cigarettes, it's just not making sense to me with the amount of money that was spent and the intention of what we want to do with the alley. So not looking to punish businesses, we're looking to help them, and I think that's where we want to go first. But I know in a minute we'll be talking about the L-shaped alley, and my opinion is the same about that. I mean, it needs, if we're going to do this, then it needs to be taken care of. We ought to be able to have something nice, as Mom used to say. So I'm just looking for suggestions, maybe from staff or anybody else on the board.
Director DeBuck.
No, I totally agree. We went to the trouble of doing the stamped concrete in this alley with the intention of activating it, but we haven't gone to the next phase, which is working with the business owners to understand what is needed for functionality, for the function of the business and use of the alley, and then how do you then activate when they don't need it for those purposes, which means not just the dumpsters, but deliveries and use of that space to make it an additional space for people enjoying the downtown and visiting those businesses. I don't have any answers. I have a bunch of questions. So I don't know if it's direction, is it to Daniel or to staff, to maybe come up with a list of what needs to happen to activate that alley in a way that still allows the businesses to get the function out of it that they need. I know in Detroit, where they've activated alleys, where they've become kind of pedestrian malls, the alleys are open for delivery and business purposes in certain hours, but then no deliveries allowed outside those hours. That would take a significant amount of coordination for our businesses to know and then make their necessary changes to accommodate. But I think that should be our goal. And I think asking for some recommendations is a good starting point.
And frankly, there may be some businesses that don't understand what they should and shouldn't be doing as well. And I think they need to help be educated on that before it becomes punitive. And then I think we're also obligated to kind of come up with some solutions as well. So what does that all mean?
Well, I mean, I can think of a couple things here, and I don't know, I'd like to get Tim's thoughts on this. I do like Director Johnson's idea about putting together an informational pack that, you know, explains why we did what we did, and the importance of keeping it up and getting the use out of it that we intended to use it for. So I don't know if that would fall on Daniel's shoulders here or somebody in staff, Tim. But I think that would be a good first start. And then from there, my only suggestion would be possibly to send it back to the infrastructure committee to have a deep, hard look at this particular item. And create possibly that list that we're talking about of maybe the do's and the don'ts and what other things that we can do to be proactive in helping the businesses solve some of the issues that we're talking about. Director London.
I totally agree with you. I have a problem with the alley myself. I've called the city on it. I think businesses think they can keep their trash out every day, and that is not the case. I keep my trash inside my business. I only put it out before they come pick it up. So the part about the recycling receptacles, I would say once a year or once every 18 months, the city drops one off. I never ask for it. And I say, please pick it up, because what happens is pedestrians use it as a dumping ground, or the businesses, for me on 4th Street, think, they don't know how to take care of their trash, so I visibly see them when I leave work, take their trash and dump it in Luigi's dumpster. Since that's not my business, I don't say anything, but the whole trash thing is a problem. These trash cans should not be out every single day. That just should be the city's rule. So they need to have a solution, I guess, and see how other cities do it.
Mr. Twing, any comments?
Well, as most of you probably know, refuge in the alleys is an ongoing issue, has been an ongoing issue for the city for years. What I would say in regards to this alley from 11 Mile to 5th Street, there has been in the past a lot of communication. Some of the board members may recall when you hired a design firm to do some of the original design and work in the alley to come up with solutions. There were meetings with the property owners and business owners at that time. Now, some of those have changed, so I will acknowledge that. And yes, there was a communication effort that occurred with that prior to you putting in the stamped concrete. You may recall some of those plans talked about additional lighting and things like that, and those items were taken out because, frankly, there wasn't a lot of buy-in to participate from the adjacent business and property owners. But the idea here is none of these things that you see in this picture belong in the alley. Not the recycle bins, not the dumpsters. By ordinance and code, they're all supposed to be in your building or on private property in the CBD. I'm going to guess that there are a couple businesses that pre-exist and haven't been through the development process and still may be grandfathered without a site location. And one of those being the WROK on 3rd, the city agreed to do a license agreement to place theirs in the city parking lot to address it on that location. And they're currently building a platform and an enclosure to put theirs on. Having said that, all the ones you see in this picture, I could send code enforcement out tomorrow, order them all gone, and if they're not gone by Friday, have DPS pick them all up. That's the code issue from an enforcement standpoint. They'll all be back out next week sometime because either the people picking it up, it's easier for them to just drop it in front of the door rather than pushing it back in. So it's a cycle. I agree with your comments on the recycle bins. I think there needs to be a broader solution. Those seem to just have multiplied like rabbits in the downtown, and they're not full of recycling. They're full of trash. And even if they were full of recycling, they still are required to be inside. It's still refuge. So from an enforcement standpoint, yes, we can issue tickets every day of the week and keep going at it, but that's not a friendly solution. And yes, we can have Daniel go out and try to remind people, but it's an ongoing thing. And again, it's a factor between the manager of the store, the refuge pickup company, and putting them back and making sure they're closed and those things. So it's not just either the city or the DDA solving it. It's you need to buy in from the property owners and business owners in order to solve it. And on the next case, I'll show you a picture of a site where what it used to look like and what it looks like now when we're talking about the L-shaped alley. But I think referring it back to the infrastructure committee, both alleys, or frankly all the alleys in the downtown, and how you want staff to address them, that's fine with me. I've also had a meeting with the sustainability person for the city. I believe she's working on a grant application to try and address some centralized recycling areas. I think some of the problem there is where and how are they convenient, but that is moving forward slowly as well. So I think if you refer it back to the infrastructure committee, we can get a meeting together and we may invite the business owners, property owners to come and ask how they want to solve it.
Okay.
Just to show the L-shaped alley real quickly, and again, this wasn't intended to provide any action today. It just was a kind of a history of where we've been with the alley by Stagecrafters, Baldwin Theater area. If you see this picture, this is the alley I'm referring to in red. The Stagecrafters, Baldwin Theater's here, the Fifth is here. Mr. Holbrook's building is this building on this corner. And we did have a meeting where several people showed up and signed up, and that was January of 2022. And this goes back way before then. The survey has been done of the alley. You may recall that you spent some $5,000, $6,000 on the survey. That's done, so that has been done. And these are just some pictures of the dumpsters that are in the alley. And none of these are supposed to be in the alley. And again, if you wanted me to clean them up, I can send DPS out and remove every one of them when they're ready. That's true of all the recycle bins. This photograph came from Mr. Holbrook, and it shows a shed that was actually placed in the alley by the restaurant adjacent to it, along with a grease bin. This is the grease bin and other items that are stacked in the alley as well. Some CO2 tanks were added at one point. Again, more dumpsters that aren't supposed to be there. A second CO2 tank was added. This is what it looks like now because the restaurant's closed. That's what it should look like on a daily basis.
Hey, Tim. I wasn't on the board. I was off the board at the time when you did the survey. Does the surface of the alley, the city property, butt right up to the each building? Do you know?
I'll go back to the aerial.
I mean, it looks like it does, but I don't know if that's just.
I don't know if this is, that's not the best picture. This is a property line map from the county, and you'll see the alley is right adjacent to several properties on all sides. The aerial shows it a little better where you see buildings. This is a loading dock parking area, so it's a surface lot, but there's a retaining wall in between, so the surfaces are not level.
Do those parking spaces butting up to the theater, those belong to the theater, or they belong to the, are they part of the?
No, the ones that are up to the theater are on this south side here that are on private property.
Okay.
There is surface private property on the south edge as well as this northwest corner. The rest of the site is adjacent to building walls.
So if and when we improve the alley, how does that work with that private spot? I mean, obviously.
Well, it's no different than what you did on 3rd to 4th. The engineering would have to design it such a way that the doors and the refuge areas line up with the alley. Part of the problem is to get the stormwater to flow the correct way. If you raise up the north end some 2 feet, how do you grade it back down so that it's not impacting other parts of the alley? It's an engineering exercise, obviously. The stormwater may have to get moved, or you may have a new catch basin. So there are expenses above and beyond just paving the alley if you want to correct it all. I will say there is no requirement for ADA access off the back of the alley. They're all off the front. Generally speaking, if you were, as a private property owner, required to put in ADA accessibility, you'd have to put it inside your building, meaning you'd have to ramp inside your building to get to it. It wouldn't be put in the alley.
Would a ramp be an opportunity to help solve some of the challenges for like if they were to put ramps rather than, because I know one part of it is the height, which does create the high pitch, therefore you got other issues. Does a ramp help
If we had more
anything?
space, you may recall the area from 3rd to 11 Mile has a sidewalk that's raised, and it goes up and down like this in order to accommodate the different floor levels. That's probably one of the better examples that I could show you of trying to match different floors in a public alley or adjacent to a public alley. As you see that, it has different heights. Some of it's to match the entrance point. Some of it's to try and be at grade to roll the dumpsters out. So you're hitting different purposes, but not that it can't be done. It's just, it takes a little bit of detail. But again, my thought would be consistent with Director Dunson, is refer it back to the committee and we'll put it in the queue and
I support that.
And get a recommendation as to what you want to do and not want to do. But I think it all starts too with some buy-in. If there's dumpsters places they shouldn't be, they should get moved. They should be removed. I agree you shouldn't be spending money if there's not the buy-in.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you help me understand, obviously the 5th is a newer development, and there are existing buildings that existed before any ordinance was probably written about property owners having to keep a place for refuge on their property. So are any of these grandfathered?
Not very many any longer, as they change use, as they're required to comply with current codes, whether it be building code or zoning codes. They're required to address the issue. So there's not many that are grandfathered per se.
Okay.
And the requirement in the zoning ordinance is that you either have an enclosure on your own private property, and it could be outside if you had space, or it can be in your building.
Right, it's not within your property line, like it doesn't extend into the public right-of-way.
Yeah, not into the right-of-way.
Right, and most of these are in the public right-of-way.
That's why, yes, most of the ones in the picture depicted are in the public right-of-way.
Right.
And that's why I say we could have them removed.
Right.
they're on city property and they're not entitled to be on city property.
Right. So I think one of the complexities of this challenge is that this L-shaped L-shaped alley is both public and private property, right? There are areas within that red boundary that are actually private property, correct? Because
That's true of every alley.
right. And so you have private and public areas within that paved.
Not within the red.
No? Okay. So.
No, the red is all public.
Okay. So when you talked about the private parking spaces, those are outside, but they are perceived by anybody who's taking the trash out or placing a trash bin or locating a dumpster as all the same, right? You don't really know where you have public property and where you have private property. And certainly the kid who's taking the trash out doesn't care or doesn't know. So
That's generally why they're required to be one of the reasons they're required to be in an enclosure.
Right.
So if it's on your private property, it should be in your building or in an enclosure.
Right.
So there's no question about where it should be put.
Right. But there are no enclosures in this area, correct?
Not currently, but every one of these is supposed to be in the building.
Right. Okay. So do we have, for example, with the Fifth, wasn't there a development agreement about how the Fifth was going to address their refuse?
Yes. It's supposed to be in the building.
Okay. So if it was in the development agreement for the Fifth, and the Fifth is using a dumpster outside, then they are in arrears in their development agreement with the city, right?
Well, they're in arrears of the approved site plan, they're in arrears of the current ordinance.
Right.
They could get cited tomorrow.
Right. So I think it's important when this goes back to the infrastructure committee that we have all that information.
Sure.
That the infrastructure committee has the information about where public and private property is, what the development agreements were for the various functions around the alley, because you have the Fifth, you've got the stagecrafters, you've got the building on the corner, which is for sale, and then you've got Frank's building, and then you have probably another building somewhere there, and you have. So it would be really good for the infrastructure committee to have all that information, if that's possible.
Okay. Visually, if you look at this picture, the property line is really where the new asphalt is, roughly. And so this is where the parking adjacent to Baldwin Stagecraft Theater is. This is the public alley. The private property parking lot is over behind this dumpster. This dumpster is somewhat on private property, somewhat in the public alley. This is all public alley, all the way over from the building to past the second vehicle. Basically, if you look at this photo that is from the building to this retaining wall is public alley. Just to give you visuals of.
If the survey is available.
Pardon me?
If the survey is available, that was done.
Yes.
Because if the survey is that document that's included here.
Can you flip that on?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
If this is the survey that we received for $5,000, we should go back to our survey company because it's not providing us, I think, all the information we need.
Well, this is just one part of it.
Okay. So if there's additional information, that would be great to have when the infrastructure committee meeting happens.
Okay.
I will say, I mean, I know there's businesses that have a hardship or don't have the space for the dumpsters or the grease. But I also know that there's businesses between Second and Fourth in the alley there who maybe this guy doesn't have a dumpster or he doesn't have a grease thing, and he pays someone else who has one, and it's hidden and put away where it's supposed to be to use it. And I know there's a few situations in those two blocks where that occurs, and that those are just private deals between the businesses, but they work, and the ones that do it and keep it up.
Okay, any other discussion on this item? We are going to refer both of these issues back to the infrastructure at this time. And Mr. Toing will bring us the information, and then we'll bring it back to the board when necessary. Director Yazbek.
That sounds fine. If we want to do something with this situation, I know that every single meeting it's addressed. I think we should, and Tim has said many times, the property owners have to, spearhead and participate in whatever, ultimate resolution we're going to have here. I would invite the property owners to come to a meeting, a special meeting for this purpose, and not unlike a litigation, Director Van Ness, let's see if we can get some dispute resolution here, and then the city can play a role and make everybody happy. Because at the end of the day, we want to facilitate business in downtown Royal Oak. We don't want to make it harder. And it's hard enough. So, I would invite these property owners to come and meet with us and see if we can formulate some kind of a plan to address this issue once and for all.
Just to kind of piggyback on that, or we could try to schedule a meeting there in the alley, and we can look at, what's there and what concerns are, specific concerns the stakeholders have, and go from there. If we could do that before the infrastructure meeting, that'd be even better. Mr.
Director
Holbrook,
Nelson.
could you help to arrange contact with the other property owners? Is that something you're able to do?
Oh, we have all their contact info. We've had meetings with that alley before.
Okay.
Should that fail, and it has in the past, if the city decides to go, the DDA, whoever, decides to go ahead and redo that alley, do we need to have buy-in from the businesses around it in order to do that?
No, you don't need to buy in to approve the alley. You would allocate funds for it. We'd have engineering design it. You'd allocate funds for that design. We'd probably get city commission approval because it's a public alley, and move forth. The other options that are out there is the city could special assess it, charge the improvements to the adjacent property owners.
So my opinion on this would be to engage the property owners, but put a deadline on that, and then Mr. Holbrook doesn't have to come every week, and then just do it. Do it to the specs.
I think the challenge is that you have all this private pavement right next to the area that we can actually improve. And so when you have these abutting, surfaces that have to be improved, then the best thing to do is to do it holistically. So I think our goal should be that we do the whole thing the right way the first time.
Well, and the right way might be not come from the property owners. It
Right,
might
exactly.
come from another way. So.
Right.
Director DeBuck?
Yeah, I agree with that complication that we'd have to work that out. I know when we improve a unpaved road anywhere else in the city in a residential area, we special assess the adjacent property owners. They're not a similar policy in place for the downtown.
Well, there is no policy that that's required, but most of the neighborhoods don't have a DDA to pay for it for.
Fair enough. But it would be possible to enter into some mutual agreement with the property owners to cost share, especially if they want the private portions of that alley to be improved as well. Okay.
I see where Director Dunston's going with this, about the possibility of moving forward even without the ownership, but I also am slightly hesitant, and I think you'll probably get some argument that no, we should require now, when I say a buy-in, I mean involvement as opposed to financial buy-in. We should get that. We almost should have signed agreements that they're gonna adhere to certain criteria before we do any improvements.
And I totally agree, but how long have we been trying to do this?
That has been an issue, there's no doubt about it, and I don't mind saying so. I've attended a couple meetings where nothing's come out of it because we didn't get the feedback from all the owners.
Mm-hmm.
We did from some, but just not all of them. So it seemed like a very difficult project to move forward. But that being said, you know, I think it's worth another try.
Sure, I
And
agree.
let's see if we can work with everybody involved, and I like all the ideas that everybody's brought forth here. So let's.
I just think the infrastructure committee needs to put a expiration date.
Yeah,
on
I
this,
agree.
And then go to the next step, that's all.
Yeah, and then we can make a decision at that point, after that, whether we want to move forward with this project or not. Okay? Director Wall.
Yeah, just one last comment. I think trying to look at this and working with the suggestions is certainly a good thing through the infrastructure committees, along with the timetable. But I think there has to be not just verbal buy-in, but I think there has to be a financial commitment as well from the, you know, that's what we expect that, and there's coming up, I think next Monday night, in an unpaved street. There's some people that want it paved, some people don't. They want to keep it gravel, but there is a commitment that this is be set up as a special assessment district. So I think if we're going to require that, we typically require that in some indication of support. Here, as Tim said before, the private neighborhoods, the neighborhoods don't have an SAD that they could depend upon, or a DDA, I'm sorry. So I think it would be important to demonstrate both verbal commitment or written commitment as well as some sort of financial commitment. And I don't think, me personally representing the city, it's fair that because we have an avenue to do it this way, that business owners should think that they don't have to make a financial commitment as well. That's just my personal comment.
Thank you.
And does it, on the streets that works, if people on the street, if it's 50.1%, then you move ahead with the project? Is that how it works? Is it a simple majority?
Yeah, I think they typically ask, Tim, help me on this, 60% is what the commission likes to see. They could special assess it without anybody agreeing to, but that's not likely to ever happen. I think they ask for, hey, if you have 60% of the folks that demonstrates an interest, we'll go ahead and set up a special assessment district. I don't know that the commission has, Tim, you help me if I'm incorrect, a policy. They could go ahead if, frankly, no one agreed to do it, if they wanted to do that, but I don't think that, as I said, ever happens. Is that pretty much the case? Okay.
Mr. Duan.
I can just say from my experience in the commission, it's just a preference of the commission that there's some consensus of the adjacent property owners that at least the majority, and preferably a large majority, want to incur that cost. Because most of our unpaved roads that have come forward, a lot of them are like dead ends and things where it's really only benefiting those property owners, whereas this alley is mostly to the benefit of the adjacent property owners. So I think some financial buy-in makes sense. But there is no hard and fast rule on the commission. It's really public benefit versus the will of the folks who would be assessed.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to the last agenda item. Okay, good. Mural selections.
I'll handle this one. I don't know if everybody, Dan was home sick today, so. You may recall the painting downtown mural project. The board approved at a prior meeting as far as the outline of that program. The board has selected a 4-person committee to review the submissions. You had 25 submissions, I believe, and the selection committee narrowed it down to 4, 2 of which are ready to proceed through the approval process from the selection committee. They went to the Arts Commission, either it was Monday night or Tuesday night this week, and got approval as well at the Arts Commission for those murals. It's my understanding they'll go to the City Commission for full approval at a future meeting, maybe the 23rd, but I haven't seen that commission letter yet. So I haven't seen it yet. There is a resolution in the packet in 4 parts. You could make one motion to approve it, but basically they're would be awarding the Inflections Point mural for installation at 204 West 4th Street. The one for Future on Fire at 124 West 4th Street. The resolution authorizes signing the art installation agreement for each of those locations, and then the second part of the resolutions allocate the funds for the project deposited 10%. So there is a suggested resolution. I don't know if the selection committee members have any comments, but copies of the 2 murals that are ready for the board's approval are in your packet. One is depicted on the screen now, and then the second one is now depicted. This one, I believe, is on the side of Nor Leather.
Commissioner DeWalt.
I was really impressed with the quality of the art that was submitted. It was kind of hard parsing between which ones were the right fit where. I'm happy with where we landed, but I mean, you could go back and forth on these all day long. There was a lot of really cool options. I'm glad the Commission for the Arts has supported these recommendations, so I'm happy to move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion by Director DeBach, second by Director Waldweber. And that is for all 4 resolutions. Mr. Yazbek.
As a proxy for Director LeClave, he got stuck at work, but I wasn't involved in these discussions, but he made the suggestion, and it makes sense to me. There is a good deal of cost associated to preparing to do this work for the artists, purchasing other materials, and his suggestion was that the down payment should be 25% instead of 10%.
Turn that on. Sorry, I'm not catching every word.
Director LeClave's suggestion, and it makes sense to me, to cover some of the startup costs for this work would be to pay 25% at the beginning of the project instead of the 10% that's included in the resolution.
Well, I think some of that was part of the original programming to make sure everyone got treated the same in terms of the payment fee and the percentage, so it wasn't this one negotiated at that price and that one negotiated at another price. And my understanding is both of the artists in this case have signed the artist agreement, so I don't believe there's any objections from the artists involved for the 10%. Not to argue with you, but
again, I wasn't in the discussion, involved in the discussion. If they've agreed to it, I don't know, maybe we could bump it up a little bit to make it easier for them. 20% or something. I don't think they would object to that.
I don't think anyone would object to getting more money up front.
I think the issue would be if these documents have already been executed and signed and submitted, do we have to go back and?
We can give them 20% and they can put their initials on it. I think it'd be fine, just to
I
make
don't
it
know.
easier for them.
I'm
Yeah.
just
Well,
throwing it out there.
let me zoom in. This is the artist agreement. Disbursement be 10% deposit. Upon granted approval from the city commission. That's what's been executed.
Director DeBon.
No, I appreciate the recommendation. My primary, and I would have been happy to make that 20 or 25% up front, but I know we're trying to get these done in time for holiday season. I don't want to get bogged down in administration, which would also delay not just completion of the project, but their final full payment upon completion of the project. So if there was a way to do it quickly and efficiently, sure, but I don't want to change anything if it's just going to slow down the process and risk us not having done because the weather changes in time for the holiday season.
I'm not going to argue too much harder for it, but if we did want to do that and support the artists, it would literally be a pencil and an initial. I can't imagine they would delay anything. So it's your motion. It's up to you guys.
Well, you're proposing an amendment, so you'd have to move for your proposal.
Yeah, I'm proposing it, but Director LeClave, actually, I'm the proxy. But I agree with it, and do you agree that would take 2 seconds to just initial the change? Yeah.
Probably, but I don't know. I mean, are these artists like in Hawaii or something like that, and they're just gonna, I don't know, like where they are, and if,
And maybe they're more motivated to do better work when there's more money on the other end of, I don't know, but it's,
I think that based on the amount of money we're talking about, it's the difference between $682 and $740. It's like, it's just not that much. So either we agree, we say, okay, let's just give them 20% and I'll second it, or we just leave it, and then in the future, because there's going to be probably 6 more of these, then we just do it in the future.
You're creating a problem where there doesn't have to be one.
Right. I mean, I think that, I just think that the degree of money we're talking about here to change it from 10 to 20 is really, it shouldn't be an issue. If we were changing it from 10 to 50, that would be different. And that's probably what they really need, as opposed to just 20%.
well, your willingness to be a spear carrier for Arbor and pass along his generosity is appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. I think my concern is, and I understand what you're saying about initialing the document and everything else, but then does the document then have to go back to another board?
No, if you want to make a motion to give them 20%, we'll deal with it, but, I mean, I just want to point out, that wasn't the established procedure based on prior meetings, and so they've executed it. If you do it with 20%, we'll modify the agreement, have them re-execute it, because I haven't signed it yet.
There's another space on 2nd Street that's being looked at and won't be done until next year that's going to have similar issues as far as prep goes.
I know as a government body, we can't promote gambling or poker or anything like that, but I'm going to fold my hands right now.
I love it. That's good.
Okay, so the original motion is still out there on the table right now. If there's no amendments, then I'm going to call for the vote on the original motion. Hearing none, I will call for the vote on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. Okay, anything else, Mr. Twain?
I did add a copy of the article that announced the city's position and settlement with the MPS. I know there's probably been several more news stories since I posted that with your packet, so it's out there.
The settlement is there. Some members of the DDA board and myself are meeting with the police department and the parking staff. We have met with them once. We have a meeting with them again tomorrow to start talking about future and what the changeover will be and what types of parking system the city and DDA would like to see. So that is moving forward. When those pieces get put together, I'm sure we'll share that with the DDA board for your input and thoughts, as well as I'm sure the city commission will be party to this discussion too. But 3 or 4 of the DDA board members are actively involved with the parking staff at the police department and myself. We're also looking at the last study that was done by Rich and Associates, the assessment that was done. It used 2022 data, was published in January of 2023 to see turnover and occupancy and try to determine whether or not we need an update or whether that's not worthwhile. We may just request data from MPS and Parkrite to see if there's been an impact and what that impact is on the parking system. So again, you might see that coming forward in the next hopefully month or two, and so we can keep this ball rolling and be ready for the changeover.
Mr. Winchester was on Main Street again today with a camera crew. So I'm up there.
Okay. Anybody have anything they want to bring forth? Nothing? Okay. What's the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Director Van Ness, second by Director Keith. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes and we are adjourned.